we're going to continue with our SAT prep unit for my Honors Algebra 2 Pre-Calc course. So this is 1.6.16, which again, based on the notation I use, means we're using practice test 1, section 6, problem number 16. So this is a pretty classic SAT problem. When you were a kid and you were learning math, you frequently didn't know what a symbol meant, right? Like the first time you saw a plus sign, you didn't know it meant add. The first time you saw a minus sign, you didn't know it meant subtract. Certainly the first time that you see an exclamation point, you might not know it means factorial. So part of math as we grow and learn is learning to use new notation. One of the things the SAT likes to do is test your ability to use new notation that in any other situation would be meaningless. So they'll define a function like a triangle b, or a square b, or a star b, or a smiley face b, and then expect you to use that defined function. But it's only defined for that one problem, and they just want you to demonstrate that you can assimilate new skills and use them. So in this problem, they actually define two functions. They define triangle and they define square. So a triangle b is a plus 3b. So if you have an a with a triangle and a b, you're supposed to take whatever a was and keep it the same, and then add it to triple of whatever b was, right? A square b is a plus 4b. So after they gave us those two functions, they then tell us that 4 triangle 5y is the same as 5y square 4, and they want us to find y. So let's go ahead and walk through this. So 4 triangle 5y means that we're going to use this pattern. So where I have my A is a 4, and my B is the quantity 5y. So 4 triangle 5y should be 4 plus 3 times the quantity 5y. So I should get 4 plus 15y. Now that's just that side, right? Let's talk about the other side in a sec. All right, so the other side says to do 5y square 4. So in this situation, my 5y is A and my 4 is B. So based on the definition of the square function, I'm going to do A, which was 5y, right? 5y, plus 4 times whatever my B was, which in this case is also 4. So I get 5y plus 16. Now I'm asked to solve for y, but at this point it's a fairly friendly problem. So I'm going to move all my y's to one side. I'm going to do that by subtracting 5y on both sides. And I'm going to move all my not y's to the other side. So I'm going to subtract the 4. So I end up getting 10y equals 12. So y is 12 tenths, which you can either write as 1.2 or as 6/5. As a reminder, and I forgot to do this when we did the grid-in problem for the last one, when you're gridding in problems, the way grid-in problems work, you have 4 spaces, right? I did not divide that up well, but you get the gist. So you have 4 spaces. So there is no negative symbol. So if you get a negative answer on a grid-in problem, you did something wrong. So there are a couple different, and then after you bubble stuff in, you'll grid stuff in, you'll bubble it down at the bottom. But I'm going to give you a couple options here. You could grid in 1.2. That would be fine, right? You could have also gridded it in as the 1.2 shifted over, right? You could also kind of weirdly grid it in as a 1.2, but that's weird. You could also grid it in as a 1.20, which is fine. Or you could grid it in as a 6/5, right? In either the front position or the back position, right? So 6/5. A couple things I would recommend. For me personally, I always locate things at the back, right? So I would have done an empty space and then a 1.2, right? Or I would have done the 6/5 again at the back. I wouldn't suggest adding random zeros. Like, you're not wrong to make it 1.20, but if you accidentally put a 0 in a place you're not supposed to, like if I had made it 6/50, well, now it's 6/50 and it's wrong. So if I were you, I would suggest that you just put things at the back and don't add any zeros that aren't already in your answer. The last thing to be aware of is that you can't do mixed numbers on the AP. So for instance, although 6/5 is absolutely 1 and 1/5, if you were to grid in 11/5, that's wrong, right? 11/5 is wrong. There is no way on the SAT, and I think I just said AP a minute ago, but I meant SAT. There's no way on the SAT to indicate that you don't mean 11/5 if you try to grid in 1/5. So again, don't do mixed numbers when you're gridding things in.